Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I'm Tammy Manzo with North Node Venus Astrology, and I've got a fellow Gemini here with me today for the show. It's Michael Peterson from Terra Terras. Hi, Michael.
How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
Thanks for being my other Gemini
Oh,
today.
absolutely.
Got to have somebody to talk to. Geminis always run in pairs, always. Do you have another Gemini in your life?
Outside of my dad, whose birthday is the day before mine, probably a
Oh,
few more. Oh,
nice,
yeah.
nice. I love that because my mother was born, well, 2 days, 2 days after me. I was born 2 days before her. My son, born 4 days before me.
Oh,
My
wow.
best friend that I met at the newspaper the day after me, and somebody else in our department the day after her. So just
Wow.
covered with Geminis. Yeah.
It's a way to have it.
Wonder Twins activate, right? That old cartoon from a long time ago. So everybody, welcome to the show. Grab your cup of coffee or glass of wine, bottle of wine. We got Geminis here. We're going to talk about a lot of cool, neat, interesting things. I want to talk about how astrology is around you all the time. It's not just people reading charts and what planets are moving into what space and what's happening, what's the retrograde. Like energies and vibration and astrology is at work all the time around us. I don't know if you know that there are some astrologers that um, I don't want to say predict, but forecast the weather. You can forecast the weather through the movement of the planets, through
Really?
cycles. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
And I don't do that. I deal with more of the natal, with the personal,
Hmm.
readings for people. But there are people that look at cycles for the stock market, and it's proven when you find this, and I don't know exactly, I have to do a show on this and I'll have to do some research, but you can show the up and down cycles in the stock market,
Wow.
according to the movement of the planets as well. So that's something I'll have to write that down for another topic. I got a whole list of topics of shows that I'm going to do, but they all need a lot of research right now.
Hmm.
But what I want to talk about right now is something's coming up. It's my favorite time of the year. It's horse racing season.
Really?
Yeah, Kentucky Derby is coming. It's April 11th now. Kentucky Derby May 4th. So, did you know that you can, I don't want to say predict, but you can fairly accurately forecast the winners of horse races
Now,
using astrology?
how accurate is that when you do that?
Well, I've been doing this for a couple years, and I should have kept track of everything. I had it in a notebook, but I didn't keep it. I didn't know I was going to be doing. I would have known I'd be doing a podcast later on. I would have kept all this. But there is a system that you can use, and I found it for myself very accurate. It would get you. It doesn't necessarily get you the winner. It gets you in the money. That's win, place, or show.
Right.
Right. So
Wow.
the first three horses. And the problem, I stopped doing it because you have to bet across the board, and that was kind of eating into my winnings. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you would never win so much, that it would be spectacular.
So you
You
would have to spread your bet across, is what
Yeah,
you're saying?
you'd
Okay.
spread. But I want to talk about one of the systems that you can use for betting with the horses. And so, of course, you're not betting on horses using astrology, you're betting on the jockeys.
Ooh. Now,
On the
now
jockeys,
that's
yes.
that's an
A little
interesting kind of thing.
different. Yeah. And, because all the horses, they group them in the races. They're all like 2-year-olds are all together, 3-year-olds are, you know what I mean? They group them. So there's not a whole heck of a lot of difference there. But when you start looking at jockeys, oh my goodness. When you look at their charts, you can see the guys who are winners, the guys who are lucky, you can see all that stuff in there.
Really?
Oh yeah,
See, now
yep.
that's
And
interesting. That's interesting as everything.
I have a whole notebook here. See, it says jockeys. I have them all listed down, and these are like the famous, the big names. And if you start Googling their names, you can find a birth date and a place that they're born. And a lot of them are not born in America, they're from other countries.
Wow.
So you're not going to be able to get their birth time, but you could either make a solar chart, you could put their sun on the ascendant, or you could just use noon. And that's a lot of good guesstimate right there, noon. But when
Hmm.
you sit with their chart, you can kind of tap into where the real person is. When I look at a chart anyway, I look at it and I'm like, no, this ain't right. You can tell the time is wrong. And I've actually had clients that give me their time. I'm like, no, you sure this is right? Oh, this is what my mom said. No. What does your birth certificate say? And they'll come
Mm-hmm.
back and they'll be like 8 hours wrong. And I
Wow.
can tell when I'm looking at a chart, this isn't the person's soul. Like there's nothing there. But when you keep looking around, you can, okay, wait a minute. Now I'm feeling something there. You're feeling their kind of life force energy
Mm-hmm.
when you get the chart right, which is cool. But anyway, I've got them all broken down into their sun signs, right? So you can imagine or you can guess that a lot of the better jockeys are going to have earth signs. They're going to be sun earth signs. Like they're going to be Tauruses, they'll be Virgos, they'll be Capricorns, right? Because they're very earthy and grounded. They would have that calm energy that they could work with horses,
Oh, wow.
right? Yeah. So I'm just going to run down and I'm going to tell you, like, just for fun, how many of the different signs there are. So I've got like 4 Aries. You would expect more Aries to be out there because they're so competitive. They want to win, but there's not a lot of top jockeys that are Aries, which
Hmm.
is interesting. For them, I got 10 Tauruses. I got 7 Geminis. The most notable, Victor Espinoza,
Mm-hmm.
who rode the last American Pharaoh. He was the big Gemini a couple years ago. And Jupiter was moving through Gemini around that time. So he had the luck, the
Wow.
Jupiter luck, the blessing. We've got 11 Cancers, 8 Leos, 9 Virgos,
Holy mackerel.
8 Libras, 14 Scorpios.
Oh, wow.
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. 5 Sagittarians. And you would think there would be more Sagittarius because their sign is the centaur, half horse, half man.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, they've got an affinity with horses, but not too many of the top names that I can get their birth chart on. 11 Capricorns, 5 Aquariuses. I think Aquariuses just aren't interested in that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They're often doing other things. Just not a lot of interest there. 9 Pisces, and I have a whole list of unknowns. There's like 15 of them here that I can't get any birth information on.
Mm-hmm.
And I Google a lot of different websites. I just can't get anything on. But the way this works, okay, I've got all this from Sydney Omar. I don't know if you can see that book there.
Yes.
Sydney Omar, Astrology and the Man. And does that name ring a bell with you at all? Sydney Omar?
Say that one more time.
Sydney Omar?
What about
Does that name ring a bell with you at all? Have you ever
it?
heard of him before?
It sounds like I should know it like really
Uh-huh.
well, and for some reason, right at this point in time, I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing. I want to just give you a quick thing. Sydney Omar has done more to bring astrology into like the mainstream of culture, like, wow, okay, I've heard of that before. Yeah, I've heard of this. Or, like he's done so much to bring this out from like a forbidden, art or esoteric art or something that only a few people can understand, that only a few people be interested in, kind of bring that into the mainstream.
Hmm.
And I like to do a show on him just in all his things that he's done before in another show. He's awesome. He's my hero. He's my guru. He's awesome. Anyway, I just have a quick thing. He passed over in 2003, so he's no longer with us. But he American astrologer, ended up being an astrology consultant to the rich and famous. He started to know a lot of rich people and actors, actresses. You'd be surprised at how many people have actually used astrologers in their lives. He had the daily sun sign horoscope column. He was the one that started out bringing horoscopes into the newspapers. And at one time, he had more than 200 newspapers carrying his the sun sign horoscope.
Wow.
And he was the one that wrote those books. If you ever go to the library, you'll see Sydney Omar's, Gemini for the year, any year,
Mm-hmm.
every year. His book sold over 50 million copies.
Wow.
Yeah. And he did a lot of things. He started in the army, and he was actually an army astrologer.
Wow.
He did a lot of astrological things for the army, and I'll cover that in the other show too. Ended up working as a reporter for the United Press. He worked with CBS Hollywood as an editor and radio news director, and that's how he started to meet a lot of famous people. Um, so he wrote those guides, and Penguin Publishing printed it. So he did day by day astrological guides. Um, they're still printing. Another printing company is still printing with his name, but his, obviously he's not writing it. So there's people that are ghosting that.
Mm-hmm.
But he has such a famous name that they want to keep that going.
Oh yeah.
People recognize that name.
It would remind me of like Buzz Myers,
Oh,
but
right.
people want to keep Buzz Myers around.
Right. A lot of people do that too. Yeah. Danielle Steele, I remember when I started noticing her books didn't sound the same anymore. I'm like, what happened? Oh, okay. Somebody else is writing under her name.
Mm-hmm.
So what Sydney did first, and he used a lot of numerology as well. And I'm finding that he used a lot of numerology that's different than the type of numerology that you can Google online.
Right.
He added a little bit of intuitive, and he really used astrological and psychic stuff for the numbers. So he printed his first book, and he self-published it. Sidney Omar's Private Course on Numerology. He self-published and sold for $2, and he mailed it through the mail.
Oh wow.
And I'll talk about this in the next show we do on him. But he actually, the post office took him to court because they called astrology fortune telling at the time, and selling the fortune telling books through the mail was against the law. Yeah, we could go on. There's a couple really cool things that Sidney Omar did. He fought the post office, and of course he won. He had to convince these guys in court that astrology was not fortune telling. Yeah,
Wow.
and that's a really cool story. And then there's another court case too, where somebody else was being called in to court and prosecuted against, through the law, and he was called as an expert witness, and
Oh
he was
wow.
able to convince the jury. And what he ended up doing was the judge gave him all the information about his son. He said, okay, if you're scientific, if you can, do this chart and tell me all about my son, then I'll believe it's not, fortune telling. It's actually based on scientific movement of the planets. And Sydney did it. And the judge was like, wow, okay. Wow. So it convinced him. But long story there. That's a really cool story, but we'll cover that. So Sydney did his work. He really put his name out there. He really stood up for astrology. He brought it to the mainstream. He brought it to be an accepted, part of life.
Mm-hmm.
He was on many radio shows, television shows. He was on the Merv Griffin show a lot.
I remember
He was on
Merv Griffin.
the Johnny Carson show as well, back when Johnny Carson had it. And what he used to do on the Merv Griffin show, they said they would pick somebody from the audience, randomly, and get their birth time and data and all their information, and they would give it all to Sydney before they started the show. And they only gave him like 20 minutes to prepare a chart. And back then you had to go through the ephemeris, which would be a book like this thick, to try and plan, okay, where were the planets at this time? And it was said he could even build one in his mind. If
Wow.
you could give him the birth time, he could visualize it all in there. But he's very, very psychic as well, and intuitive. The guy's just phenomenal. So he would do a reading on the Merv Griffin show. Okay, I'm going to talk about whoever this is. And the person was in the audience and just floored, like, oh my God, how would you know all these things? And the audience just ate it up. He just loved it. So he's out there. He's the man. So he came up with these methods to bet on horses. And he has a method for betting on boxing as well. And maybe I'll cover that in another thing. But he looked for a lot of things, and he was never, I'm not going to say never, but more than 95% of the time he was correct with his predictions, because you can never rule out everything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
You can rule out a lot of the, stuff that you think is going to happen. So he came up with this method of betting on the horses, and he had his own numerology method that I cannot get what it is. He does something different than what we do now. And this was a secret. He would never divulge it, but he would give a chart. In this book, he gave a chart of what he called were the money races and the money horses. And he did a lot of numerology with the name of the horse. And the horse name had to add up to a certain number, and the money race had to have a certain number, and that would be the horse that would win. Well, it's a secret. That one I can't get. But he also gives another method of betting on the horses or on the jockeys. So what you do is you take well, you have to have a chart of the race. So I've already done the chart. The Kentucky Derby, the big money race is going to start at 6:50 p.m. and you put in Louisville, Kentucky, and you end up with a chart, and you'll see where the planets are. And what you do is okay, so you got to know where the moon is. So the moon is going to be in Taurus that day, and I'm really happy about that because there's going to be some big money going. Like Taurus is ruled by Venus. That's all big money, right?
Oh, wow.
So big money. So I think what I should just do, I'm just going to read this very quickly, and that way I'll get it all correct. Okay. So, and he gives it for each moon. So the moon's going to be in Taurus. I'll go with that one, and then I'll come back to the other ones. When the moon is in Taurus, the Taurus jockey is the one who finds the openings, brings his horse through, and gives a steady ride. The Aries jockey brings in the favorites. That would be the moon sign that was previous to that day. 2 days before the race, moon was in Aries. So the favorite. So you got to know what the odds are. So you look and see what the favorite horse is, one with the lowest odds, and look for an Aries jockey. And we already looked and I'm not seeing too many Aries jockeys around. So we'll see what happens. The Capricorn jockey brings in the upset winners, and that's like 3 signs behind. So when the moon is in Aries, Aries jockey is the rider who finds the special openings. His timing and judgment will be good. Pisces jockey will bring in the favorites, and the Sag jockey brings in the upset winners. All this is when the moon is in Aries. So for each time, when the moon is in Gemini, so you would pick the Gemini jockey, maybe Victor Espinoza is riding again. And unless he's the favorite. So if there's a favorite, there's a clear favorite, sometimes some of the horses will have the same odds, and then you got to kind of use your intuition. But then you'll go with the moon sign previous to. So we're going to look at the Aries for all that. Okay. So they always ask Sydney, does the horse's horoscope have anything to do with it? And he says no, right? So a lot of people spend time looking at the race forms, checking out the previous wins. All that it's really down to the jockey. Is what Sydney said.
See, and that's one thing that I find interesting, because I know a lot of people that will look at the form, look at the track, look at previous wins, how is the horse doing, what did they have for breakfast, that kind of thing. There's right. So many different modalities of people trying to figure out who's going to win the race.
Yeah.
But to look at astrology and say, here we're going to look simply at the jockey who is actually 100% in control of the horse. If the jockey tells the horse slow down, the horse is going to slow down.
Right.
No, that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. I wish I would keep track of what I had bet, because I just do the $2 bets, only bet what you can afford to lose.
Yep.
But it's interesting because my dad, in my family, we have dreams. Dreams is our superpower, right? So my dad always had the dreams. My grandma had, his mom had the dreams. And my dad would have dreams literally. He would see numbers in his dreams. He would see horses' names. He would see the colors. Like he learned early on that he had this gift, and he would follow it. And I've seen his chart. He has Jupiter right on his ascendant. So he is a very lucky man. I could do a show just on my dad. He actually won enough money to buy a car when he was 21 years old at the racetrack, and everybody came to him for tips. But yeah, and it's not foolproof because you don't know how the horse is going to be that day. Energy shifts and changes. Who knows what happens? There's weather. A lot of times, if it rains, what'll happen? And they'll scratch. They'll scratch a lot of horses. So yeah, but as much as we can narrow down the energetic, who's got the right timing, who's in the cycle, what jockey is having a great year, because I'll look at that too and see, all right, or where's their Jupiter at? They're coming around, like that plays into it too. And if you look in the listings of like the top money making jockeys, I have all their charts on astro.com. I mean, these people, holy smoke, they
It,
were like born to win money. Because you can see that in a chart, like money just flows to them. Money just flows.
really?
Luck. Oh
Wow.
yeah. And
So
opportunities.
are they consistent for the most part? As
The
in,
big jockeys, yeah.
is a jockey consistent with his chart predominantly?
I would say yeah. Yeah. And it's tough for me. I'll have two of them that are almost the same, and I'm like, oh, which one? And they're the same jockeys. They're jockeys running in the same race, and I'm like, oh. And if they're both the same sign, I'm like, which one has the best? Then you start to look for the transits. Where's the moon at? Where's Jupiter at? Where's Venus at? Because Venus rules money, you know.
Right.
So Jupiter, good luck and opportunities. So sometimes it's a toss up, and I'll just look at the chart. And gosh, it was one year. I think it was 2017. Was that the one that cloud computing one?
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget. I looked at one of the charts of the jockeys, and I did it separate from the horses for like a double blind, so that I wouldn't connect the two. And the one chart I just looked at was like a big brick hit me in the head. Like, oh my God, look at this guy. And then I went and looked at another method. So there's another method. This isn't Sydney Omar's method, but if you Google online betting on the horse race astrologically. So what they do is they tell you to do a chart. The fifth house is the house of like gambling, speculation, fun
Mm-hmm.
pastimes. And so the whatever sign is on that cusp of that house, you kind of look at the horses' names to see who correlates, like what name kind of seems like it belongs in there. And I thought, this is this doesn't work.
No.
How
No, if
many
you're
horses have names, and the way the Kentucky Derby falls, it's always at the same time of the year and at that same time in the evening. Pisces is always on that fifth house. So Pisces is that watery, mythological, magical type thing. And so the first thing I look, I'm like, oh my God, cloud computing, clouds in Pisces, and Neptune rules Pisces. I'm like, okay, that kind of fits. And then I saw the jockey, and here it turned out the jockey that I got the headbutt from was riding that horse. And I said, holy smoke, he is the winner. And I think it was like 20-1. Nobody thought he was going to win. And I told my dad, I'm like, bet this one right
oh
here.
my.
This is the one. And I knew that without a doubt because I had all that, information. I'm like, that's really cool. That's really cool. Another time, another horse, Good Magic, won. I don't remember if he was Kentucky Derby or the Breeders' Cup or one of the other ones, but he kind of fell into that fifth house, Neptune Pisces, like magic. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. But he wasn't the actual winner. I think he was second place. So it's kind of hard to tell where they're going to fall somewhere in the money, but they'll be like nose to nose, you know what I mean? Or photo finish. So anyone could win it, but that's kind of another neat thing too. And I like it to look at it from both ways because then you get your confirmation or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool.
That's
So
interesting.
this year they don't have the field narrowed down yet. It depends where you look. What website you're at. Some websites I look at and they've got like 30 horses that could be part of it. Some websites I look and they're like, oh, this is going to be the field. These are the 20. I'm like, no, they still haven't narrowed it down yet. And I don't know yet which jockey is going to ride on which horse. But I was just going down through the list of names, just using my own clairsentience.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the names jumped out at me. So I'm gonna put them out here for the readers. I'll put myself on the spot for the listeners. I've got Omaha Beach, Improbable, War of Will, and Tacitus. And that's going to depend, of course, on the jockey. I'll refine that as soon as they get the field and they get the post positions set and the jockeys on. And even sometimes as much as the night before, I'll tap into the energy to see what's happening, because there's all kind of shifts that can happen even the night before. So I'll put my bets in on the last minute. I just
Mm-hmm.
do them online, you know, and I always double check it for that last shift of energy, because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And again, I like I said, I've known a lot of people that bet on horses. My father-in-law, big
Mm-hmm.
horse, um, and he and I discussed things to where. But this is the first I've really heard about using an astrology chart
Mm-hmm.
for a jockey, not looking at the horse, looking at the actual
Mm-hmm.
jockey. So this is very, very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Oh, and my pick of the jockey, and then I know some. It's funny because when you start looking at as much of this stuff as I do, you know these guys, right? Like, oh, okay, I know that Jack. I know his energy. Um, the guy, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna win. He's riding something. Luis Saez, Saez. He's one of the Taurus winners. I've been following him for a long time. I've got his chart on astro.com. He's one of the big money guys, like big money. And I have to find out which horse he's going to be on, because he's going to be, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't place in the money somewhere.
Wow.
But we just got to wait and see what horse he's on. So, um, yeah, he's the big Taurus guy for sure. And of course, Sydney will say, oh, the Capricorns have a good chance in May. And he never said how he got that. I think that's his psychic and intuitive abilities. But if I had a look at, um, I don't know if Joel Rosario is going to ride, but he would be my pick for that. He's one of the big money winners too. But if he's got a horse, he might bring in um, one of the upsets. So we'll see. I love it when it's an upset because there's more money. If it's like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, it's like, God, why even bother?
Mm-hmm.
Placing that bet. But yeah. So that's cool. So that goes on in my world. When I started doing this, I started telling my dad about it, because he'll sit there, looking through all the forums and everything, looking at the horses, and I'll tell him this and that and the next one, and finally it caught his attention. He's like, "What are you doing with that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's astrology." It's like, "What? What?" And it's got him just about convinced, like, okay, he still looks at the horses and he still uses his hunches and his dreams, and all
Oh
that, his
yeah.
numbers and his colors and all this stuff he's getting. But then he's starting to take on board my stuff too. And it's really cool when I'll call him up and I'll say, this is what I got. And he's like, oh, I was thinking that same thing too. So he's looking at it from, okay, we're looking at the horse and I'm looking at it from everything else. So I think it's cool. Yeah. We've made some money here and there, little bits and pieces.
That's the way to do it, though. Every little bit stacks up beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, yeah. I started using more as more of my clairsentience comes in. I'm using more and more of that, just tapping into the energy of the names of the horses.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sometime last year, I think it was the Breeders' Cup. I had the superfecta. I had the top 4 horses, and I bet them. And I boxed them because I didn't know which one, it could be all like a nose,
Mm-hmm.
like who knows which one's going to come. But I knew without a doubt the top 4 finishers. So I had a $12 bet, which is like the lowest you can get, like, I don't know, 10 cents a box or something on a horse and all the different combinations. I
Right.
paid $175.
Uh oh.
I was excited.
I would be too.
Yay.
And
Yeah.
this coming from something that you do in your everyday life.
Yeah.
This
Mm-hmm.
being your vocation, practicality for people that aren't paying
Mm-hmm.
attention.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting.
I was excited. And of course, the big money was there because one of the horses had like of that bigger, it had a bigger odds, you know.
Mm-hmm.
One of the unfavorites came in. I love to have the unfavorites. Bring more money.
I would say the underdogs, but they would be the under horse.
Yeah, right? The under horse. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So are you going to tell your father-in-law about that with astrology, or do you think he'd be interested?
I apologize. My brain just flaked out. Say that again.
Oh, are you going to tell your father-in-law about betting with
Oh
astrology on the
yeah.
horses?
Are you kidding? I'm going to tell him you need to watch this episode that she's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm going to tell him. He'll
Yeah.
flip.
Awesome.
He'll flip.
Awesome. I'm excited. I'm looking at the energy of the day itself, and I love that Taurus moon.
Mm-hmm.
Taurus sun is going to be, the moon's going to be, the sun's going to be in Taurus as well. And man, that's a double dose of Taurus. It's the race is coming right after the new moon, and everybody's got a lot of energy. It starts that new cycle. So I think these horses are going to be fresh. The jockeys are going to be fresh. If the weather just holds up,
Yeah,
and
that's
I'll
going
have
to
to
be a
send
big
some
one.
energy to the weather because I do that too. Um, but yeah, the moon is not void, of course. There's no weird stuff happening. And, there's no retrogrades, or, well, there's some retrogrades, but, you know, it's
Everything's
going to be
looking
a good
up for the
race.
Derby then.
It's going to be a good day, a lot of exciting things, and there should be like money, because of all that Taurus energy, there should be some big money. So I'm thinking that maybe some of the, not the hands-on favorites will come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Omaha Beach and War of Will, they're not up there with the they're not the favorites right now. They're like that second tier, 10-1, 12-1. So that could bring in some good money.
Now that's going to be an interesting race. And now,
Yeah.
now that we're listening to more from the astrology side and saying, we're adding a new twist to it, so it's really going to be an interesting race.
Yeah, yeah. I'm cool. I'm so excited about it, and I'm going to keep watching to see when they narrow down the field, and then of course the post positions. I don't feel like that means anything. There's a lot of people out there that say, "Oh, we don't want post position 1 and 2 because it's too close in." I don't think that means anything. I think if you're going to win it, you're going to win it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got that energy going, you're gonna. So yeah,
Nope, it'll be exciting to watch without a doubt.
yeah, that'll be a cool day. That'll be a very cool day. So, yeah. So everybody that's listening, once everything gets set and the field narrows down, go to my Facebook page, North Node Venus Astrology, and I'll put on who I'm betting my money on. So if you're interested in following or maybe betting along too, $2 bet, hey, maybe you could win 175 bucks, right? Superfecta. Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, that's pretty much all that Cindy had to say about the betting. Yeah. And of course, when this book was written, it was 1975, and he gives a bunch of famous jockeys who were out at the time, and a lot of them were Capricorns and in Virgos. A lot of Capricorns. So yeah, again, that earth energy really means something when you're writing.
This is going to be a very interesting race because now I'm going to have to look and stop and understand and look at your page and check things out. And
Yep.
I know it's going to cause a few hours of conversation between my father-in-law and myself. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about that.
Yeah. My dad's turning around to that, like, oh, okay, yeah. What's that astrology? What are you doing?
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool because they'll call me, like my brother will call me, oh my God, you won again. And I think I had a 3 or 4 year run of like picking the winners. And I
Wow.
almost felt kind of bad because I was like taking my dad's thunder. Like I was getting this information and he kind of didn't know, you know what I mean? Like I would sit there for a couple minutes and look at it, and he'd sit there for days looking at all his, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I felt a little bad because I didn't want to take his crown away. But yeah, they couldn't believe it. They're like, "What are you doing? How are you doing that?" I'm like, "Oh,
Interesting topic.
yeah, cool." So anyway, that's what we'll be doing that day, screaming and yelling, watching the TV. And I think that's about it. Do you have anything else you want to add, or anything else about
Not on my
racing?
side. I just found everything that you're talking about, and from the astrology side,
Yeah,
to be interesting when you're talking about horse racing and the Kentucky Derby.
yeah,
So that's a big interesting topic.
yeah. That's very
I'm
cool.
glad to be part of that.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm excited. I can't wait. So I like to do this for the whole, there's a good couple of months now with all the big races coming in and the bigger jockeys. with the local ones, I've got local racetracks here that I can bet on, but I don't know, I would have access to any of the jockeys' information because they're not that well known. The
Mm-hmm.
whole thing hinges on you being able to get their, somebody, they need to be famous enough where somebody puts their birth data down
Right.
somewhere. Yeah, so yeah, you can't just go to Thistledown or anything and pick some horses. So yeah, cool. All right. Well, we'll have a drink later on. We'll have a mint julep and
Right.
up our money. Awesome. Cool. And there's also ways to bet on well, really anything. There's theories that you can find them in books, and I've got an old book here, and I tried working on this with the basketball games. Um, the problem is that the bookies now, they put so much of a spread on
Mm-hmm.
that these methods of determining the winner, they will give you the winner, but they won't tell you if you're going to be able to make money on it because of you know, the spread.
Right.
So that's something for you to figure out. And I tried doing it with this past, basketball tournaments, and yeah, I didn't make any money on that because it's not the same as just, all right, when you bet on a horse, either you're going to win or you're not. You know what I mean? You're going to win or you're not. Sometimes you could bet on a basketball game and they could win, but you could lose money.
Yeah. Well, in a basketball team, you've got how many players that are running on a court at any given time, how many people on a team. So you've got how many astrological people running around.
Well,
That's got to create havoc and chaos.
you don't do that by their individual charts. You do it by the energy. There's like a system that assigns the group as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it puts them in a chart. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That'd be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. That's very interesting too. It's cool. But yeah, doesn't always come out with the bookies. Yeah. So
So
well, I think that's it.
what have you got coming up in your next show?
Well, the next show we have, oh, okay. So we're gonna continue on with astrology like in your everyday life. And when you're me, and you're always thinking about astrology, you're an astrology geek. They say writers are always thinking of things to write about all the time. In their mind, they're always getting ideas and things are popping in. The same thing goes for me with astrology in my everyday life.
No?
So as I'm reading books and there's characters in there, I think, wow, this person seems to be like this sign, or this movie person character in a movie seems to be this person kind of energy. So
That'll be a very
my
interesting
next,
show coming up then.
yeah, my next show is going to be it's going to be about, well, my favorite movie, Gone with the Wind, and that lead character, Scarlett O'Hara. But she's a Scorpio in my mind, so I'm going to call it Scarlet or Oh Scorpio.
Fantastic.
Yeah, great. So yeah, come back everybody and check that out. And if you have any questions or comments, anything about the horses, anything about betting, anything about astrology with the jockeys, and if you would like to know, if you want to run some of these charts, if you know how to do this stuff yourself and you're interested in finding the birth times or birth dates of some of these, email me and I'll share all the information that I have with you. It is northnodevenus@gmail.com.
North
And let me know
Node
if you win.
northnodevenus@gmail.com.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, I think that's it for today, folks, for this show. Just stay tuned, check back, and as soon as I get more updates, I'll update you with more of my information. And best of luck to everybody, and I hope y'all win.